Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission, well, it's a fascinating one. To truly understand the artist Bob Camblin in a pivotal year, 1970.
Right, and we're doing that by plunging into this collection of materials you shared.
Exactly. We have two really intimate drawings. One's a close-up portrait of someone named Bonnie, and the other's a self-portrait, just signed Bob, with a date and location, Houston.
And alongside those, we've got this really rich selection of his personal writings, his reflections.
Yeah, it's a great chance to connect directly with, his artistic eye and what was going on inside his head during a pretty significant time for him.
What's immediately striking, I think, is just the combination of these sources.
How so?
Well, the sketches give you this unfiltered look at people in his life, right?
Yeah, very direct.
And then the writings sort of provide the intellectual and emotional landscape where these images were actually created.
Ah, okay. So it's like we're piecing together a portrait of the artist himself, but using these different lenses.
Exactly. Two sides of the same coin, maybe?
Okay, let's really dig into that first drawing then, Bonnie. The Camblin retrospective notes describe it as really close up.
Almost entirely the face, yeah.
Right, just the barest hint of shoulders. And the lines are so delicate. Sparse, maybe, light and quick.
You really feel the immediacy, don't you? Like, he just captured that exact moment.
That sense of capturing a fleeting moment, yeah, that feels crucial.
It speaks to a kind of intimacy, I think, a desire to just grab the essence of Bonnie in that specific instant.
Right, and the lack of heavy rendering suggests it's, well, less about a formal picture.
And more about a personal connection. Yeah.
And her gaze is captivating. It's direct, engaging, almost looking right at us, but slightly off to left. The notes point out her eyes are the most defined feature.
Yeah, slightly heavier lines, a bit of shading there. It gives this real alertness.
Alertness, or maybe even a hint of questioning in her look.
Could be. The emphasis on the eyes just naturally draws you in, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
They become the focal point. It feels like Camblin wanted to capture not just what she looked like, but her inner state too.
That slightly heavier line work focuses your gaze right where all that expression tends to live.
Then there's her hair. Described with these loose flowing lines. Gives a sense of volume, movement.
Softly framing her face.
But it's interesting, for her nose and mouth, he uses such minimal lines.
Very few.
And yet they're so effective. You get a distinct shape, a natural expression, not idealized or overly emotional.
That minimalist approach, well, it says a lot about his confidence, doesn't it? His ability to say a lot with very little.
He's not going for photographic realism.
No, definitely not. He's isolating the key things that define her presence in that moment.
Yeah.
It forces us, the viewers, to engage with what's essential.
Exactly. The whole sketch-like quality really emphasizes that feeling of a personal connection, like a quick shared moment. And the lack of, background details or fancy clothing, like the notes say, it keeps our focus entirely on Bonnie herself, on that gaze.
It feels tender somehow and very immediate. A little window into his personal world during this busy time.
Which brings us quite naturally, I think, to the self-portrait, Bob.
Right. And here the gaze shifts, doesn't it? Slightly to the right. One eye is more visible.
Yes, and there's a different feeling, a more serious or maybe intense expression. You see it in the furrowed eyebrows.
That intensity does seem to jump off the page, even just from the description.
Yeah. And while the nose is defined simply, lines and shading,
the mouth is hidden.
Completely hidden by this full dark beard. The notes say it's rendered with dense, textured lines. Really gives you a sense of thickness. It's prominent.
The beard becomes this key element, doesn't it? Masking the lower face, but also maybe contributing to this impression of a more rugged or perhaps inwardly focused persona.
Interesting.
And the way he varied the pencil pressure, that would have been crucial for creating that depth and texture.
It wasn't necessarily the dominant style for self-portraits back then, was it?
Not really, which makes you wonder if it was a very deliberate choice on his part.
And his hair is similar, depicted with loose, wavy lines. Suggests a kind of unkempt or flowing style. But what really struck me were the lines indicating wrinkles or creases. On his forehead, around the visible eye.
Ah, yes. Hinting at age, experience, maybe.
It adds another layer, doesn't it? Beyond just a likeness.
Those subtle details are incredibly telling. They move beyond just physical representation and start to suggest, the weight of time, the experiences that shaped him.
And the informal sketch-like style reinforces that feeling. A direct, unfiltered look at himself.
Definitely.
And it's fascinating that the date DEC-1, 1970 in Houston, Texas, are right there on the drawing.
Grounds it completely. Specific time, specific place.
Plus that little note, beard added in 1971.
Yeah, adds a touch of humor almost. A very personal note.
Mhm.
Turns the drawing into a little story.
Absolutely. That detail just personalizes it even more. It gives you a glimpse into his own awareness of, well, how he looked, how it changed.
And the less legible markings around it just add to that sense of it being a private thing, you know? Maybe not originally meant for public view like this.
So we have these two portraits. Both seem quite intimate, both from around the same time, giving us these visual insights into his personal sphere.
Right.
Now, when we bring in what we know about his activities in 1970 from that Bonnie and Bob PDF, it really starts to paint a fuller picture.
He was clearly deep in the art scene then.
Oh, yeah. Involved in 8 exhibitions, including a solo show, Boxscapes, even designing a set for the Rice Players. It just speaks to this burst of creative energy.
That high level of engagement suggests, well, a period of significant creative output, definitely, and a strong connection to the artistic community around him.
It wasn't just about the solitary act of drawing in a studio.
No, he was actively participating in the broader cultural landscape.
And it wasn't just about art for art's sake either. He was clearly aware of and concerned with the political and social stuff going on. Student protests, Vietnam, important context. Plus, you have Joe Tate joining Rice's art department, aligning with Camblin and Staley. That suggests a dynamic, evolving environment at the university, right? Likely sparking new dialogues, new influences.
That sense of a shared artistic and intellectual space is incredibly important. It implies conversations, exchanges of ideas that would have inevitably shaped his thinking and, his art.
And then there's his involvement in that rather unique tattoo exhibition of David Gallery.
Yeah, that really underscores his broad interest, doesn't it? Pushing beyond conventional boundaries.
Exactly. It highlights a curiosity, an openness to different forms of expression, willingness to explore areas maybe considered outside the traditional fine art box.
And that same spirit of exploration might well be reflected in the diverse, sometimes unexpected nature of his written reflections, too.
Which leads us right to those quotes. And what a fascinating collection they are. Such a range of thought and feeling packed in there.
Absolutely. Where do we even start?
Well, take this line. Fortunately, some things remain forever. Or another 10 years, perhaps.
Yeah, that one jumps out.
It almost feels like a slightly wry commentary, doesn't it? On how fleeting time is. And maybe this deep desire to capture moments like in the drawings before they just fade.
Makes you wonder about his perception of legacy.
That keen awareness of impermanence definitely resonates with sketching. It's often about seizing something transient.
Yeah, this quote makes you consider what he truly valued preserving. Was it a likeness, an emotion, or just a specific point in time against that relentless current?
And then there's that quote referencing Salt Air Summer in 1967, this feeling that everyone aged at once as the decay became visible.
Woof. That's poignant.
It is. Such a reflection on time passing, awareness of mortality, especially when you contrast it with the immediacy of those 1970 sketches.
It's like the drawings are almost a defiant act against that decay.
Yeah. Or highlights the tension, maybe, between the present moment of creation and that always present awareness of time marching on.
The drawings become almost like snapshots taken against the backdrop of this larger temporal understanding.
Yeah. This one really caught my eye. Look into the atom, you get what you need. Look into magic, and you get what you need. Philosophy and art are in both.
Wow. That speaks to a profound idea, doesn't it? Seeking fundamental truth in both science and the mystical.
How might that kind of thinking inform his art, do you think?
Well, it suggests an incredibly open mind, a refusal to be confined by purely rational ways or purely intuitive ways of understanding the world.
So maybe his art explores both, the tangible and intangible.
Could very well translate into an art that explores both, yeah. The seen and the unseen, perhaps seeking a deeper resonance beneath the surface of everyday reality.
He also mentioned striving for the perfectly average view of the universe, hoping to find wonder in both the miracles of science and the enchantments of magic.
That embrace of seemingly contradictory ideas feels remarkably, well, balanced. It's like he's finding beauty in the in-between spaces.
A desire for balance, rejecting rigid categories. He calls it the smear between the whiteness and the blackness.
Eloquently put. And that space could represent ambiguity, possibility, perhaps mirroring the nuanced expressions in the portraits that avoid, strong emotional pronouncements.
And the idea that the sixth sense is to be, without a doubt, senza dubio. Could the act of drawing itself, committing an image to paper, have been a moment of that kind of certainty for him?
Possibly. A way to cut through the ambiguity.
Maybe.
It's certainly possible. In the act of creation, especially in the directness of sketching, there can be a powerful sense of immediate knowing, a translation of vision and feeling onto the page that kind of bypasses conscious deliberation and the potential for doubt to creep in.
There's a real sense of yearning in the line, bright day and I soar, how cruel that my soul is attached to this earth and yet.
That human tension. Desire for transcendence versus the limits of our physical existence. A classic theme.
It resonates across so much art history, doesn't it?
It does, and that tension can manifest in so many ways in art. Maybe a longing for something beyond the mundane, the spirit wanting to break free.
It makes you look at the grounded nature of the portraits in a new light. Are they anchors, or are they observations from a soaring perspective?
Good question.
He talks about finding something in nature that completes you, and then surrendering to it. Looking at the naturalism in, say, Bonnie's hair, or the texture of his own beard. Does that connection to nature feel significant?
It does feel significant, yeah. There's a clear sensitivity to natural forms in those details. Suggests a deep appreciation for the organic world.
Could the act of drawing itself be a form of that surrender?
It could indeed. The act of meticulously observing and then translating those forms, it could be an immersion in their essence, a way of connecting with something larger than himself, yeah.
Then there's this more extensive quote about light being all you need. The goal being to evolve by doing your best, believing in balance, patience, freedom, silence.
That almost feels like a personal artistic manifesto, doesn't it? Laying out his core principles.
It truly encapsulates a philosophy of both artistic practice and, well, just being.
The emphasis on light connects directly to visual art, obviously. But the others balance, patience, freedom, silence. They can be seen as guiding principles underpinning his creative work and his whole approach to life.
He draws a distinction between art for art's sake, evolving to art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake. The very personal nature of these portraits certainly seems to align with that later idea, doesn't it? They feel like they serve a personal need.
It suggests a shift in motivation, yeah. Moving away from purely aesthetic concerns towards something more deeply personal, maybe even existential, in the act of creating.
These portraits, with their intimate focus, feel like they are very much for his own exploration, his understanding of the people in his world, including himself.
Definitely.
There's this intriguing idea he puts forward about stepping off the train of thought to find true power. Could sketching, especially in such an immediate way, have been his way of doing just that, accessing a more intuitive state?
Absolutely. The act of drawing, particularly sketch-like and immediate, can be very direct, very intuitive. It allows the artist to kind of bypass the more linear analytical thinking.
Right.
And tap into a more fluid, perhaps more profound level of awareness.
And then this very direct, almost Zen-like observation. When you think, don't act. When you act, don't think.
That sounds like a recipe for spontaneous creativity.
Which again feels very much in sync with the immediate, unlabored style of these drawings.
It really highlights the value of being fully present in the moment of creation, whether that's the focused concentration of thought or the uninhibited flow of action.
The drawings definitely carry that feeling, don't they? Capturing moments of direct action, almost as if the hand moved before the mind could fully jump in. He also vividly describes the cosmos waving at him through tree leaves, the feeling of sun on his skin, light reflections.
Speaks to a really deep sensitivity to sensory details.
Do you see that heightened awareness reflected in the drawings themselves?
Well, while the drawings are primarily visual, that acute sensory awareness likely infirms his overall way of seeing, his way of translating experiences into art.
So maybe the subtle attention to light and shadow, even with minimal lines,
could certainly stem from that deep engagement with the sensory world. Yeah, I think so.
There are these almost haiku-like observations scattered through his writings too. Little poetic moments he captures.
Like the 6 starlings on broken branches with no buds growing.
Exactly. Or the clouds circling their tower like intruders. They're these small, evocative snapshots.
These glimpses into his observation of nature provide a wider context for his artistic sensibility. They reveal an eye for detail, a tendency to find meaning, metaphor, in the seemingly ordinary things around him.
He even has this rather funny analogy about a poor French trapped by the changing tides.
And then just says, so much like us.
Yeah. It reveals this ability to see human experiences mirrored in nature, but with a touch of wry humor.
That empathy, the capacity to draw those connections between the human condition and the natural world, often hallmarks of an artist's perspective. It enriches their understanding and forms their output.
There's also this rather whimsical thought about wanting to return as a fly if he knew his body would shine in the sun.
Huh. A little spark of lightheartedness amidst some of the more serious reflections.
It reminds you of the multifaceted nature of an artist's mind, right?
Yeah,
Capable of deep introspection, but also playful engagement with possibilities.
definitely.
He mentions his watercolor palette being much better than arguing.
Suggests a retreat into the quiet contemplation of art as preferable to conflict.
Art as a sanctuary, a space for reflection, expression that transcends the often, unproductive nature of disagreement.
That's a sentiment that likely resonates with many artists, I imagine.
And then this interesting, deceptively simple thought. White is light. Black is absence of light. But people are seen.
Profound observation about perception, isn't it? The very act of existing in the eyes of others.
It highlights the fundamental importance of visibility, of being seen in our human experience, and perhaps implicitly connects to portraiture, right? Bringing someone to visual focus, acknowledging their presence.
To connection.
He even has this direct, rather charming address to Mother Nature, asking what she thought of his last picture.
Huh. A playful personification. Seeking nature's approval, almost.
Suggests a very personal, maybe even spiritual relationship with the natural world, like a collaborator or a silent judge of his work. Then you get these more fragmented, almost surreal quotes that pop up sometimes.
Like eater of Christians, chimera Byzantium, warm, cold children's chair.
Exactly. Or San Gimignano, calamari to oblivion, strange ways of magic. They feel like glimpses into a more subconscious, dreamlike space.
These more abstract, evocative phrases offer fascinating glimpses into the inner workings of a highly imaginative mind, where disparate images and ideas can collide, coalesce in unexpected ways.
They might not directly connect to the naturalism of the portraits.
No, but they expand our understanding of the breadth of his creative thinking.
And then you have these beautifully fleeting visual images captured in words, like a fragile grayed lady, now tiptoe, now skirts high, sidewise hasty retreat.
Or veil of August's heat weaves the artist dragonfly. Banyan trees are flat. So vivid, almost like little sketches in themselves.
These poetic observations really showcase his keen eye for detail, his remarkable ability to translate visual experiences into evocative language. Reinforces this image of an artist constantly observing, finding beauty and intrigue in the everyday. There are also these recurring references to Icarus, the mythical guy who flew too close to the sun.
Yeah, fall, wax and feathers and flowers of burning petals. Rah, Icarus.
And off the shore, fragments of a memory are found, bones of Icarus. What do you make of that repeated motif? Feels significant.
Well, the Icarus myth is often seen as a cautionary tale, right? About ambition, hubris, the consequences of overreaching.
So its recurrence in his writings could suggest.
The deep fascination with those themes, perhaps, reflecting on the inherent risks, the potential falls that can come with the creative pursuit, the desire to push boundaries.
Then you have these seemingly simple, very direct observations of nature again. Oh, sandpiper, why do you dance at ocean's edge? Come, the water's fine.
Or summer great black waves one sees so seldom clearly. Oh, men pulling nets, like little snapshots of the world as he saw it.
Imbued with a quiet sense of wonder.
They demonstrate his consistent attentiveness to the everyday beauty and activity of the natural world, finding poetry in the commonplace. Highlights his ability to be present, observe the small moments.
And then more personal reflections surface, like, first child, glory be. 7 years deprives, my dear, for economy.
Hints at personal sacrifices, joys that shaped his life.
Or this lovely one. This strange mirror, bright face cupped between my hands makes me seem so young. Such a human, relatable moment of self-reflection.
These glimpses into his personal life add a layer of vulnerability, relatability to his artistic persona. Remind us that behind the artist is a person with their own complex tapestry of experiences, emotions, reflections.
There's this constant interplay between contrasting ideas in his writings, too.
Like white magic, white lies, thoughts of twisted limbs and mind, the hidden fear scene.
Juxtaposed with, this egg in brown leaves has a great secret of mine, that nothing changes. It's almost a dialectic, a constant push and pull.
That embrace of contradiction, the willingness to explore opposing ideas, It's a hallmark of a restless, inquisitive mind, constantly questioning, seeking a deeper understanding. Suggests he wasn't afraid to hold disparate thoughts in tension.
You even get these wonderfully strange and evocative images. Ragged wheels of silk, minuscule dragons observed by Buddhist biters.
And then a touch of self-awareness, almost humor. This dragon never lived on paper or flowers. Well, perhaps next time.
Huh. These more fantastical elements really showcase the boundless nature of his imagination, where the mundane and the mythical can coexist, interact.
That touch of self-aware humor in the dragon quote is also quite endearing. Reminds us of the playful aspect of creativity.
He reflects on stillness and the passage of time, with images like, jawless monster, cold marble sundial of the church, do the old men sleep.
And the hopeful anticipation of weeds of last year, crowd, shaking with lavender, spring winds are just the first sign. There's a real sense of observing the rhythms of life and decay.
These observations reveal a deep sensitivity to the subtle rhythms of time, the cyclical nature of life, death, renewal, finding poetry and meaning in the quiet persistence of nature, the traces of the past. And then this incredibly evocative, almost cinematic image. Blue pictures pulsing. The faded image breathes once. The tattooed hand waits.
Wow, that is rich with potential narrative, isn't it? Leaves so much to the imagination.
That quote, with its striking blend of the visual blue pictures, faded image, tattooed hand, and that strong sense of anticipation with waits, it's particularly intriguing.
Almost feels like a still frame from a vivid dream or a half-remembered story just about to unfold.
He poses these fundamental, timeless questions about nature and existence. Seed pod, dragonfly, shriveled weed, or living thing, stirred by wind or God.
The age-old search for meaning, for causality, these are the very questions that have driven artists and philosophers for centuries.
Even his descriptions of specific places are so vivid, so sensory. Purple canals, golden palazzi, the rain muffles her crying.
You can almost picture yourself there, can't you? Experiencing that moment.
His ability to evoke a strong sense of place through such specific sensory details really highlights his observational skills and his capacity for empathy, allowing him to connect with and convey the emotional atmosphere of a scene.
Definitely.
There's a palpable sense of loss, nostalgia, in the simple phrase. Along on Longboat, memories of summer walks, I hear this is gone.
Speaks to the fleeting nature of cherished experiences, doesn't it?
He hints at the bittersweet quality of memory, the poignant awareness of how ephemeral things are, how time inevitably changes, sometimes erodes what we hold dear, and then this very direct, almost frustrated artistic statement. The painted eye sees more than mine, and God damn it, I see nothing yet.
Speaks to the artist's constant striving, doesn't it? For a deeper, more insightful way of seeing the world and translating it, a very honest admission of the ongoing struggle.
That combination of aspiration and frustration is so central to the artistic journey, the perpetual quest to perceive and represent the world in new, more meaningful ways, highlights the inherent challenge in trying to capture something profound through art.
Yeah.
He even describes this wonderfully strange device whirled by a figure of my mind, a beautiful dance.
Highlighting the vibrant, often surreal inner world that fuels creative expression, celebrates the crucial role of imagination, the rich internal landscapes artists draw upon, reminds us creativity often originates in these unseen mental spaces.
There's a touch of dry humor in this observation. Gargoyles gargling water from Gothic churches, you missed me that time.
Almost like a playful interaction with the architecture around him. Adds a bit of levity, reveals his capacity for finding amusement and interest in the seemingly mundane. A moment of connection, even with inanimate objects.
And this tactile image is so immediate. Hammock facing west. Fingers knit to block the sun become burning twigs.
You can almost feel that sensation, can't you? The sun through your fingers brings us right back to that acute sensory awareness. The ability to not just observe, but to deeply feel and then translate that physical sensation into a vivid, relatable image through language.
He reflects on nostalgia, comparing it to guests and fish that shouldn't be kept too long.
Huh.
And this interesting idea of dredging memory to jog archetypes. It's a rather pragmatic, insightful take on the role of the past in creativity.
Suggests a very practical approach to memory, viewing it as a tool, something to be used, maybe let go of, a way to access deeper, more universal patterns of human experience that can inform artistic creation.
He declares the artist today as the only truly free agent, not bound by anything except their own desire.
That's a pretty powerful statement about artistic autonomy, isn't it? And the nature of creative motivation. really emphasizes the idea of the artist as an individual unbound by societal constraints or external pressures, driven purely by their own internal compass.
He even considers the developing idea of a move towards participatory art.
Shows an awareness of the changing landscape of artistic engagement even back then. Demonstrates a forward-thinking perspective, an openness to new ways of interacting with an audience. Reflects the evolving dialogue in the art world of that time.
His definitions of religion as belief, and belief as the very creation of fact, quite philosophical.
Gets to the heart of how we construct our understanding of reality, really delves into the nature of truth, the profound power of conviction, suggests our deeply held beliefs have the capacity to shape our perceived reality.
He explores the complex interplay of faith, discipline, communication, and being, almost suggesting a holistic recipe for a meaningful life and maybe a fulfilling artistic practice.
Emphasizes the interconnectedness of different aspects of human experience, how they contribute to our overall understanding of ourselves and our ability to express that understanding through art or other means.
The seemingly paradoxical statement, art is and it isn't, and now everyone knows love art,
Feels like a sharp commentary on the often simplistic, sometimes superficial ways we categorize and understand such complex, elusive concepts.
It highlights the inherently subjective, often indefinable nature of both art and love, and the tendency for simplistic understandings to gain widespread acceptance, often at the expense of deeper engagement.
Yeah, definitely.
He introduces these personal frameworks: resist and submit, held in dynamic balance, and the cyclical figure four idea.
Feel like his own ways of understanding the ebb and flow of life and the creative process itself suggest a deep personal search for equilibrium, an understanding of life as dynamic forces, a constant interplay of opposing but ultimately interconnected energies.
The simple yet profound truth that, when understood, all truth is funny.
Offers a refreshing perspective, doesn't it, on the often intense seriousness with which we approach complex ideas. Hints at a deeper level of understanding that transcends solemnity. Suggests that a more profound, perhaps more detached understanding can often reveal an inherent irony or even absurdity in what we often take very seriously.
He cautions against the demon of being right and encourages flow, present moment awareness. Step off the train of thought. Powerful reminder to let go of rigid thinking.
Emphasizes the crucial importance of being open-minded, adaptable, not becoming too attached to fixed ideas, allowing for spontaneity and intuition to guide our thoughts and actions.
His observation that historians tend to romanticize artistic madness only when it's safely in the past.
A rather wry and insightful comment on how artists are often perceived and understood after their time. Highlights the frequent disconnect between the lived reality of the often challenging creative process and its later interpretation, its sometimes romanticized categorization.
He advocates for open perception, distinguishes between believing and truly knowing, referencing mystics' direct experience.
A call for more direct, unfiltered engagement with reality. Places a high value on first-hand experience, intuitive understanding. Suggests direct engagement transcends second-hand beliefs and purely intellectual comprehension.
The thought-provoking idea that history is believable when it is creative.
Offers a rather provocative perspective on historical narratives, doesn't it? And the role of interpretation in shaping our understanding of the past. Suggests storytelling and interpretation play a significant role in shaping our understanding and acceptance of historical accounts. Blurs the line between objective fact and narrative construction.
He sees cynicism as destructive creativity, talks about losing wonder and magic through over-analysis.
Values a sense of wonder, intuition. Suggests excessive reliance on rational analysis can sometimes stifle creativity and our capacity to experience the world more profoundly, imaginatively.
The simple metaphor of pushing up for gradual growth.
Resonates with the often slow, persistent nature of artistic development, the effort it requires. Emphasizes the importance of consistent effort, the accumulation of small steps in the journey towards mastery and artistic growth.
The seemingly paradoxical phrase, draw, teach, search, reveal,
Encapsulates the multifaceted, interconnected nature of a truly engaged artistic life. Suggests a constant cycle of learning and sharing. Highlights the dynamic interplay between different activities within the creative life, a continuous process of exploration, learning, and eventually sharing insights gained.
He advocates for returning to a more naive, unburdened approach to art, urging a move away from the potentially stifling influence of art history and criticism.
A call for a kind of artistic innocence. Suggests that an over-awareness of established conventions and historical precedents can sometimes hinder originality and the directness of personal expression.
The analogy of a critic being like a legless man teaching running.
Huh. Both humorous and quite pointed, isn't it? Commentary on the potential disconnect between theory and practice in the arts sharply highlights the potential gap between theoretical understanding and the actual lived experience of creating art.
He emphasizes the fundamental, innate human need to make marks, suggesting it predates even weapons, underscoring the primal nature of creative expression.
Positions art making as a basic, deeply ingrained human impulse, perhaps even more fundamental than tools of conflict.
He touches on intention in art and the potential conflict between prioritizing quantity versus the deeper pursuit of quality.
Raises a fundamental question about the driving forces behind artistic creation and the inherent value of focused effort, meaningful expression over a mere volume of work.
The rather whimsical metaphor of artists helping historians find Easter eggs.
Offers a playful yet insightful perspective on the relationship between artistic creation and historical interpretation. Suggests artists inadvertently leave behind clues and insights that historians later uncover and try to understand within a broader context.
He cautions against technical facility becoming a superficial Midas touch, where skill might overshadow genuine artistic substance, emotional depth.
Warns against the danger of prioritizing technical proficiency over authentic artistic expression, the potential for virtuosity to become an empty display.
He considers a possible correlation between perceived emptiness in contemporary art and the subsequent need for extensive critical interpretation.
Suggests excessive analysis might be a response to a lack of inherent meaning. Poses a critical question about the role of interpretation in shaping our understanding of art, and whether an over-reliance on analysis might indicate a lack of inherent power in the work itself.
He observes that visual arts have seemingly become non-visual in some ways, introduces zazen in relation to the aimless mind focusing itself.
A thought-provoking commentary on the intellectualization of art and a longing for more direct, intuitive engagement. Suggests a yearning for a more direct, perhaps less intellectualized experience of visual art, akin to the focused yet unfocused state of Zen meditation.
He encourages embracing the artistic game without fear, especially in something relatively harmless like drawing.
Urging us to question the power of self-doubt. It's a call for embracing experimentation, letting go of inhibitions, recognizing the creative process doesn't need to be burdened by excessive fear of failure.
He distinguishes between different modes: action experiment, slow analytic, conceptual drawings.
Highlighting the diverse approaches artists take provides a useful framework for understanding the different intentions and methodologies behind various approaches to drawing.
He emphasizes the fundamental idea that both drawing and conceptual art are nonverbal communication.
Capable of conveying meaning beyond language limitations. Underscores the power of visual language to communicate ideas, emotions, concepts in ways that transcend verbal explanation.
He draws a parallel between the simplicity of haiku and the profound reaction it can evoke.
Perhaps suggesting a similar potential power in seemingly simple visual expressions, like his sketches, highlights the idea that profound impact can often be achieved through conciseness and suggestion, leaving space for the viewer's own interpretation and emotional response.
He talks about finding one's own mystic switch, a personal, ever-evolving understanding of truth.
Emphasizing the subjective nature of our perceptions. Underscores the deeply personal and dynamic nature of truth, the importance of inner awareness and intuition in navigating our understanding of the world.
He urges truly seeing over simply looking, learning through failure, valuing the process and awareness over the outcome.
A powerful message about embracing the creative path. Reframes failure as an essential component of learning, emphasizes the significance of being fully present and engaged in the creative process itself, rather than solely focusing on the end result.
He connects writing's origins in pictures to the limitations of linear syntax for expressing non-logical concepts.
Perhaps suggesting a unique strength of visual art in conveying certain kinds of understanding. Highlights the unique capabilities of visual language to express complex, non-linear thoughts and ideas in ways traditional linear communication might struggle with.
He points out the conditioning around right ways to draw, encourages a conscious recreate.
A call for breaking free from established norms, rediscovering a more authentic approach. Advocates for originality, a critical questioning of conventional approaches, urging artists to find their own unique visual language.
He discusses how drawing, reading, music can occupy the rational mind while allowing a more intuitive Zen mind to surface hunches, inspirations, solutions.
A fascinating insight into creative problem solving suggests a powerful way to harness both conscious and subconscious processes, finding a balance between focused attention and a more open, receptive state of mind.
He cautions against an overly eager pursuit of answers, warning we might miss the way in our frantic searching.
Encouraging a more natural, less forced approach to creativity and discovery emphasizes trusting intuition, allowing the process to unfold organically rather than trying to impose a predetermined outcome.
He even has that quote, beautifully encapsulating the paradox of learning. I didn't learn anything new, but I know a lot more now.
Captures that feeling of deepening understanding without necessarily getting new information. Really captures the essence of experiential learning. The idea that understanding can deepen and evolve through reflection and experience, even without direct acquisition of new facts.
He reiterates the Zen concept of always already being Buddha, but often forgetting.
Relating it to our inherent potential for self-awareness and insight that we often overlook, a potent reminder of our inherent capacity for wisdom and understanding, a potential we often fail to recognize or fully access.
He uses the metaphor of mirrors as seemingly magical, then expands it,
Right.
everyone being a mirror to each other as true magic.
Suggesting a profound interconnectedness in our interactions, highlights the powerful way we reflect and influence each other, the potential for deeper self-understanding and connection through those interactions.
He contrasts negative power magic with positive seeing magic, distinguishes intellectual versus this magic seeing.
Linking the latter to a more profound art connected to the endlessness of life itself, values a more intuitive, holistic way of perceiving the world. Suggests this deeper seeing leads to a more enduring, meaningful art that resonates with the fundamental nature of existence.
He discusses the deceptive nature of real seeing, comparing it to a whirlpool of relationships, the possibility of fooling the eye and mind.
A commentary on subjective perception acknowledges the active, interpretive nature of our perception, emphasizes that what we see isn't always a straightforward reflection of reality, but is shaped by our experiences, our internal processing.
He explores the artist's ongoing dilemma, balancing technical skill with the demands of a disposable art culture, prioritizing novelty.
While also striving to avoid mere gimmicks and maintain artistic integrity, feels like a timeless struggle. Really highlights the enduring tension between genuine artistic expression and the often superficial pressures of the contemporary art market, a struggle that continues to resonate today.
He notes the oversimplification of yin and yang as just another mandala, quotes the symbolist's view that explanation diminishes understanding.
Suggesting a limit to how much art can be intellectualized. Cautions against reducing complex symbols and artistic expressions to simplistic intellectual interpretations. Argues direct experience, intuitive understanding are often more valuable than exhaustive explanation.
He reflects simply on the wonder and sadness of communications.
A concise acknowledgement of the complexities, the often paradoxical nature of how we connect and share ideas, captures the inherent duality of communication, potential for profound connection, inevitable limitations, occasional frustrations.
He expresses a straightforward desire to mix fun and art.
A refreshing reminder that creativity should also be a source of joy, playfulness for the artist. Underscores the importance of maintaining a sense of play and enthusiasm, preventing it from becoming solely serious or burdensome.
He considers the influence of passing years, hopes for diverse art forms driven by different intentions.
Acknowledging the evolving nature of artistic expression, looks forward to the continuous evolution of art, the emergence of new voices and perspectives shaped by different motivations and experiences.
He introduces the concept of a standard sign whose meaning is known only to a select group.
Highlighting the limitations of transferring knowledge without shared experience and context, emphasizes the critical role of shared context and direct experience in truly understanding meaning, the inherent difficulties in transmitting knowledge purely through symbols.
He presents these stark, contrasting images of dryness and death. Dry river, dreaming of water.
And dead branch flowers growing. Powerful reminders of impermanence, maybe unexpected resilience. These visceral images provide a grounding element. Stark reminders of the cyclical nature of life and decay, the possibility of renewal even in seemingly barren conditions.
His advice for making the best of it. No mistakes, doing your best. Mistakes as nature's guidance to trust instincts.
Surprisingly practical and encouraging, especially for the creative process. Reframes failure as essential for learning, strongly encourages self-trust and intuition in navigating the creative journey.
He playfully engages with Shakespeare's quote about pride, exploring reversed cause and effect.
A little demonstration of his agile intellect, his enjoyment of deconstructing familiar ideas, showcases a mind that enjoys intellectual play, exploring different perspectives on even well-established concepts.
The analogy of two bits of a hologram arguing instead of cooperating.
Offers a powerful, very visual image of how fragmented perspectives prevent seeing the bigger picture, achieving complete understanding. Powerfully illustrates the value of collaboration, the limitations of isolated perspectives when trying to comprehend a larger, complex reality.
He introduces the cycle of chaos and order, the concept of a hologram as potential collective clarity.
A hopeful vision of understanding arising from complexity offers an optimistic perspective on the potential for collective understanding to emerge from seemingly chaotic systems through interconnectedness and shared awareness.
He mentions approaching an edge of real time, a somewhat cryptic phrase.
Hints at a sense of living in an increasingly accelerated, perhaps more consciously aware state. This enigmatic phrase could suggest feeling on the cusp of a new level of awareness, or experiencing time more immediately, perhaps overwhelmingly.
He presents different philosophical perspectives on the universe, suggests solipsists misunderstand interconnectedness.
Affirming a belief in external reality and our relationship to it grounds his wide-ranging reflections in a broader philosophical context, aligns with the view of an interconnected universe transcending purely individualistic perspectives.
He reflects on our simultaneous existence in past, present, future, and our shared reason for being, to dream of how it works.
A beautifully poetic, unifying thought about the human condition beautifully encapsulates our innate curiosity, our shared human drive to understand the universe, and our place within it. Suggests imagination and inquiry are at the core of our existence.
He even throws in time travel at the speed of enlightenment.
Linking inner transformation with transcending temporal limitations and understanding, this poetic phrase beautifully connects inner growth and profound insight with a sense of transcending the constraints of linear time.
He contrasts the hawk's and snake's ways of being with the complex path of least resistance for humans.
Acknowledging the nuanced nature of human choices and motivations highlights the different ways beings navigate the world, acknowledges the unique complexities and internal conflicts often characterizing human decision-making.
He outlines a cyclical view of existence: return, silence, space, time, beginning, ending, action, linking past and future.
Providing a framework for understanding life's recurring rhythms, offers a sense of continuity and interconnectedness across time and different states of being, emphasizing the cyclical nature of existence.
There is a brief anecdote about Louis Sullivan and the meaning of honor.
Offering a glimpse into the values he admired, this short narrative provides a personal insight into the principles Camblin found meaningful and respectable.
He observes, some crutches are wooden, some are gold. Reflects on the battle between futility and provoking thought.
A nuanced observation on different kinds of support, the complexities of motivation in creative endeavors, acknowledges the diverse forms of assistance, the often conflicting impulses driving human action, particularly facing limitations.
He shares the simple beauty of dolce far niente, the sweetness of doing nothing.
A gentle reminder of the value of rest, unproductivity in a world demanding constant activity. Provides a valuable counterpoint to constant striving, acknowledging the importance of simply being present, finding joy in moments of inactivity.
The powerful metaphor of the phoenix, frozen in a salty shell, waiting for a hatching fire.
Coupled with the realization the living was the meaning. Incredibly evocative, especially given the 1966 Salt Lake City context, speaks to potential, the inherent value of the journey itself. This potent imagery powerfully conveys themes of latent potential, transformation, the intrinsic worth of the life process, even when faced with apparent stagnation or hardship. The Salt Lake City context adds a personal layer.
He includes Shinichi Suzuki's powerful quotes on art as humanity's fundamental expression, its vital importance for species survival.
Urging us to save the world through art, a truly inspiring call to action. These quotes elevate art's role to a fundamental aspect of human existence, a potential force for profound positive change.
He shares Alan Watts' idea of interconnectedness and quiet nature, the realization you are that vast thing that you see far, far off.
An expansive, deeply unifying thought. Powerfully emphasizes the fundamental interconnectedness of all things, our inherent relationship to the vastness of the cosmos.
He incorporates William James's thought on revelatory ideas, belief creating fact.
Reinforcing the profound impact of our convictions on shaping reality, underscores the active role our beliefs play in constructing our understanding and experience of the world.
He touches on Sartre's existentialist ideas, being in itself thought-defining existence.
Engaging with fundamental philosophical concepts about reality and consciousness introduces a key perspective in 20th century philosophy, emphasizing individual consciousness, the radical freedom and responsibility with existential awareness.
He includes the pithy Zen proverb about knowing, not telling, telling, not knowing.
Highlighting language's limitations in conveying direct experience, wisdom, underscores the inherent limitations of language for expressing profound or experiential knowledge, suggesting true understanding often transcends verbal articulation.
He delves into Bergson's complex ideas: intelligence as tool-making, need for non-intellectual apprehension of reality, exploring the unconscious, perception as immobilization, a pure vision of matter.
A deep dive into philosophy challenging conventional understandings of consciousness, perception. These challenging concepts push beyond traditional views, emphasizing intuition, exploring the subconscious, a more direct, unfiltered engagement with reality.
He presents Teilhard de Chardin's emphasis on giving oneself to others, the deep interconnectedness of all beings.
Offering a more spiritual, communal perspective on existence, highlights the ethical and spiritual significance of selflessness, our fundamental unity with all forms of life.
He includes Lamarck's concept of habits forming a second nature, the insensible change of living things over time.
Offering a glimpse into early evolutionary thought, introduces the idea of gradual transformation through repeated actions, the slow, continuous changes shaping living organisms.
He shares Koestler's views on courage, creative activity as self-learning, originality as genius's mark, creativity beyond language.
A celebration of the creative spirit, its inherent drive for discovery. These ideas offer valuable insights into creativity's multifaceted nature, emphasizing its inherent learning process, its ability to express beyond verbal communication.
He incorporates Jung's profound ideas: creative works originating in creative fantasy, self-understanding and irritations with others, cosmos within chaos, play instinct in creation, debt to imagination, mind's pendulum between sense and nonsense, distinction between believing and knowing.
A rich tapestry of psychological insights into creativity and the human psyche, Jung's concepts delve deeply into creativity's wellsprings within the unconscious, highlighting imagination's transformative power, inner-outer experience interconnectedness, integrating seemingly opposing aspects of the self.
He includes several quotes from Fowles the Magus. Desire to simply be, acting without a plan, relying on inner resources, self-acceptance in the present, living dead, sustained by love, self-answered nature of life's big questions.
Powerful reflections on self, existence, meaning. These literary excerpts offer profound insights into the human condition, emphasizing self-reliance, presence's importance, the ultimately personal nature of finding meaning and understanding.
He briefly mentions Dostoevsky's thoughts on hidden fears, sudden interest in strangers.
Touching on human psychology's complexities, our connections with others. These observations delve into often unacknowledged aspects of our inner lives, the subtle dynamics governing our interactions and connections.
He includes Salinger's perspective: artist's singular focus on personal perfection, money's blues, unknowability of action before it happens, saying what one means without exact knowledge, potential constant unhappiness of being an artist.
A raw, honest portrayal of the often difficult artistic path. These quotes offer a more grounded, sometimes cynical perspective on the inner turmoil and external challenges often accompanying dedication to an artistic life.
He presents Updike's idea that any activity becomes creative with care. Art as baby shoes losing charm when gilded. Art offering spiritual breathing room, his mental aiming point east of Kansas.
Insightful, evocative ways of thinking about the artistic endeavor. Updike's reflections beautifully emphasize intention and care's importance in any creative act, unadorned art's purity, its essential role in providing solace and broader perspective.
He concisely includes Barth's concept that value is attributed, not intrinsic.
Highlighting value's subjective nature, particularly in art, how meaning and worth are assigned rather than inherent.
He discusses Durrell's view of art as joyous compromise with life's wounds, fulfilling destiny through imagination, inventions mirroring secret wishes.
A rather romantic vision of the artist's role in navigating existence's complexities. Durrell's perspective emphasizes art's redemptive, transformative power, suggesting its profound connection to inner desires, coping with life's challenges.
He presents Huxley's observation that consistency is contrary to nature and life,
Encouraging an embrace of dynamism and flux. Encourages a flexible, adaptable approach to life and art, recognizing existence's inherent dynamism, limitations of rigid adherence to fixed patterns.
He delves into Camblin's own ecology of art concept, encouraging artists to do your own thing.
And even suggests seemingly self-indulgent pursuits might contribute to balance in a world gone very wrong. A remarkably generous, unique perspective on the artistic ecosystem, value of individual expression. Camblin's own reflections offer a compelling, surprisingly tolerant rationale for artistic individuality, suggesting even seemingly self-focused creative endeavors can contribute to a larger, perhaps unseen, equilibrium.
He shares a deeply introspective passage from Camblin himself. Frustrating, dissolving images, struggle against chaos, exhausting logic, harder task of erasing drawings, illusory goal, fleeting capture of truth.
Compares his process to drawing on a frosted window, acknowledges frightening freedom of his few truly independent pieces, a remarkably personal, revealing look into his creative process. This intimate glimpse reveals profound challenges, persistent frustrations, rare moments of genuine breakthrough characterizing his artistic journey. The poignant metaphor of drawing on a frosted window beautifully captures the ephemeral, often elusive nature of his creative endeavors.
He also shares Camblin's insightful thoughts on the challenge of creating unique, intimate art in an era of consumerism, where shock and recognition overshadow contemplation, concept that replace traditional standards, difficulty avoiding gimmicks in a changed art world-leaning participatory.
His concerns from decades ago feel incredibly prescient today. Camblin's observations from the late 60s to early 70s speak to enduring, increasingly relevant challenges within the art world, particularly the ongoing tension between genuine artistic expression and the pervasive demands of a rapidly evolving cultural economic landscape.
He includes Camblin's reflections on early teaching at Rice, initial assumptions, capitulation, then becoming the teacher.
A relatable journey of professional, personal development. This offers a personal, relatable anecdote about his own evolution within an academic setting, highlighting the often complex process of finding one's voice and pedagogical approach.
And finally, Camblin's whimsical thought comparing the ego to a goldfish's constant output.
A humorous, insightful closing thought. Provides a lighthearted yet surprisingly insightful commentary on the ego's persistent, unavoidable nature. A reminder not to take ourselves too seriously.
So by exploring these drawings and this really rich collection of writings, we've really been able to immerse ourselves in Bob Camblin's world in 1970.
Definitely. We've seen his artistic hand in those intimate portraits.
And delved into his profound philosophical musings, his keen observations on everything from the cosmos down to, the subtle beauty of the everyday.
It gives you a real sense of the artist behind the work. What truly stands out is the consistent thread of intense curiosity, a deep engagement with the world around him, both external realities and his own internal landscape.
Yeah.
The seemingly disparate elements, the direct simplicity of the sketches, the expansive, often complex nature of his written reflections, they ultimately converge, don't they? To paint a compelling portrait of a multifaceted, deeply thoughtful artist grappling with the big questions and the small details of existence.
Absolutely. And I was particularly struck by how many of his observations and concerns about art, about the human condition from all those years ago still resonates so powerfully today.
Very true.
So, for you listening, maybe consider how deeply an artist's personal experiences, their internal reflections, truly shape their creative output. What kind of unique truth do you think an artwork can capture and convey even decades after its creation?
It certainly offers us a lot to contemplate as we continue to explore the fascinating world of art and artistic expression.